Okay, guys, gals, welcome to another speaker series. All right, here we go. Let's get this started. Thank you so much, Trevor, for joining us today. So for those of you that are new on the chat, and I know a lot of people are just starting to get on, this is Stonehouse's 6th or 7th week now doing these types of talks. We've had some amazing speakers so far from across Canada, local superstars. Today we are talking to Trevor Street. He runs one of the premier marketing groups for pre-sales and new construction in the Lower Mainland, because you do really basically a little bit of everywhere, right? He's done over 600 million in sales. I'm sure it's higher than that. I'm just ripping it off his website. 1,600 units. That's unimaginable. And he's really done it with a very small team. I think if I remember correctly, you only have a couple ladies that are working for you at this time or have throughout the entire time. So it's pretty impressive, absolutely impressive what you've built. You built it from the beginning. You started as a realtor. We're going to kind of get into all of that, right? So it's not like you started at a marketing company or anything. You're actually at Keller Williams Elite right now as well and run your company within that company. So it's pretty amazing to hear the stuff we're doing. And thank you so much again for being a part of the Summit Series, bro.
Well, that was quite the introduction. Thanks so much, John.
And for those,
my head's gonna get too big here to make the Zoom frame big.
And for those of you that don't know, he's also a really nice guy. Did tours in Afghanistan, all kinds of crazy stuff. So he's supported and a big believer in Canada, obviously. And thank you so much for your service on that side, my friend, too. I really do appreciate it. So today, if you don't mind, we'll just start diving in. And we are going to talk about a couple of your sites down the line as well too, so people can kind of get some idea of what you do and current projects you're working on. But to start it all on, tell us your start. How long have you been in real estate for? When did you start? What was that like at the beginning?
I started when I was 20 years old, so 15 years ago now. As you mentioned, there was 2 breaks when I was deployed overseas, so there was about a 2.5-year break there for both of my tours. And I started just 20-year-old kid. I didn't have a very good reputation in Port Coquitlam as a result of my white trash upbringing here in Poco, and so it just had to start from there, and I didn't know what to do. I started knocking on doors, and I used to knock on about 100 doors a day, run 4 open houses each weekend, and made a lot of mistakes. And that was how I got my start, and that's where I started, just as a regular resale guy kind of thing.
And how long did you do regular resale for? And did you have success in that? What drew you to that? And then we'll kind of start talking, obviously, into your bread and butter of what you do today. But what was your view on regular resale, and how was your first couple of years?
The first couple of years, obviously, I think I went through the same challenges that everybody else does, right? You're building a business. There's no real, there's a lot of training. I know your brokerage does a lot of training. Our brokerage does a lot of training. But you're learning on the job. You're building the plane as you fly it. I always say if you're a first year realtor and you don't make $100,000 worth of mistakes in your first year, you're probably not getting in front of enough people. So, but I just worked from there, and I think I learned a lot along the way, kind of thing.
So were you success right off the hop? Like, were you one of those guys that Italian rookie of the year, or was it like a slowly traditional? And because I know there's usually these phone calls are half mixed with experience and half mixed with newer agents. You mentioned a lot of door knocking, that kind of stuff. How did those first couple of years look like as far as results and what you would have done differently, maybe?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was working just as a regular guy. I joined a team after about my first 6 months. And that was really, really helpful for me. Working with Peter Carlton, who is, personally, in my opinion, the best salesman I've ever met in any industry, anywhere, on anything. And, he phoned me one day, I still remember, and he said, "Trevor, is everything okay?" And I said, "Yeah, everything's fine." Why? And he says, "Oh, I just haven't got any Trevor questions today." And I realized I had phoned him every day, at least once a day, with questions like that. That's what I had. So, I still, think back fondly on those times, and I'm so grateful for my time with him because he taught me so much. So, I spent a few months there, and then, ended up going out on my own. And then I was deployed overseas. So I was gone for about 9 months. I came back, had to restart again. And then that's when the serious door knocking and commitment to lead generation and everything started, right? So, yeah, it was just, when you're a brand new realtor, or any realtor, I mean, you can't think of yourself as having a real estate business. You are in the lead generation business with a specialty in real estate. And, I still cold call every day, right? So every day.
Yeah, that's funny. You and I have had that conversation quite a few. And just to mention this, like, I consider you a mentor in this side, because, I'm been working and trying to get into project marketing and too. And at the end of the day, I've called Trevor multiple times and be like, gone for lunch and so forth. And hey, man, just pick your brain. What do you do this differently? How do you do this? And you've always been an open book. So I appreciate that as well. And that's why you're on the call today.
I'm honored.
Thanks, Bill. So I guess moving into the next thing, why, and your bread and butter today, why did you choose project marketing, right? So why did you get into that that type of the business? Because there can be tons of money lost, there can be tons of money made, but it is a different side of our business altogether. So why did you choose that versus sticking with residential real estate? Or
Well, I did both at first, and I was working about a 70-hour work week. I was attracted to pre-sales for the same reason that everybody's attracted to everybody else's money, right? nobody gets into this industry for the awesome vacation packages and retirement packages, right? It's it's leads, listings, leverage is kind of the name of the game. And I'd rather list 40 or 80 homes or 100 homes at once than one or two resales. And so it was always something I was interested in, just because of the scale of it. And I found that I was much better at this side of the business. I have high D, alpha male douchebag kind of personality, and not everybody likes it, but these big mean builders, they do like it. So I get along good with them. Sorry to use colorful language.
No, that's exactly, Sarah tubed off the F-bomb a dozen times.
I won't drop any F-bombs, I promise.
All good.
But I found I was just really good at it. I was better at that side of the business. And so there was a time period where I was doing both. I didn't know that my competitors get advances when they are selling these projects. I thought that they just get paid on completion, just like a regular resale deal. And so I was doing both. I was selling resale to sustain myself while these buildings were built. And I was working about a 70-hour work week. And I came home one day, and my little boy pulled himself up on the coffee table, and he took a few steps, and I called my wife in the room and said, honey, come look at this. And she says, oh, Trevor, he's been doing that for 2 weeks. But I've been working, like I said, 70-hour work weeks. And so that winter, we kind of decided I was going to finish off all the resale files I had and make a go of this, running a pre-sale business.
And it's funny, you and I think the first time I reached out to you and the first bit of coaching you ever gave me, and I remember this like it was yesterday, you have two cell phones, right? One that is like basically your developers only, and they can pretty much reach you 24 hours a day, but maybe there's a handful of people on that list that have that number, right? And then there's everybody else that basically is, you call it the banking hours, right? From 9 to 4, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've managed to actually create something that most realtors envy, right? And that was our first conversation. I remember saying, is like, man, let me show you how to run an actual business instead of just, always searching for that next deal and ruining your life in a lot of cases, right? So if you can, because sorry, I'm just seeing the comments are blowing up here on my private side here for you. One of the questions that keeps coming up over and over again: how did you break into it? Like, how do you meet these developers? Like, how do you get going from resale guy to I can market a company or market a project, not just sell a project?
Cold call. So the very, very, very first project I ever got was I used to a long, long time before, I used to date the guy's niece, believe it or not, and I had kept the builder on my mail out list. I'm dating myself here, but we still did actual physical mail outs to our database back then. That's how long ago it was, and he would see that I was consistently selling homes every month, and one day he called me and he just said, hey Trevor, I'm interested in this site around the corner from your office. Can you tell me a little bit about it? I know you know the area. And I got back to him right away, of course, and it didn't turn out to be the site that he wanted. So I ended up started just looking. And the cool part was, the cool thing is that no one's self-made in Canada. You can't say you've been born in Canada and claim to be self-made. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean when I say self-made, like guys that, not guys that inherited it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But self-made guys, they really appreciate the hustle. They really do. And you'd be very surprised how quickly and how much people are willing to share with you. And, I would bring Glenn's sites, and he would tell me why he didn't want them. I would always ask, in a polite way, not a pushy way, why you don't want it. That's how I learned. And so we ended up eventually finding him a site. Most builders in the Lower Mainland, they still operate in the old school list backs method. You bring them the site, you'll get the contract to market it. So if you want to break into this side of the business, that's the fastest and best way to do it, right? Get good at digging up sites and just have coffee with a couple of developers and just make sure they're committed to giving you the list backs.
And so, you mentioned, and I've got a couple questions here too, that you cold called them, and that's how you originally kind of started building this stuff, and you cold call still to today. What kind of calls are these? Like, if you could just give us like a little.
Yeah. And so after that first site, every other site that we've had came from a cold call. Everywhere from Chilliwack to Port Moody, they all came from cold calls. And I really wish I could tell you I have some amazing script when I call these guys and make myself look like a genius. It's really, hi Sean, I noticed you have a site coming up on Fraser Avenue in Port Coquitlam here. Yes, I do. Well, I just wanted to touch base with you to see if you give me thoughts to what you'll do about marketing when the time comes. That's literally it. And then you'll hear a pause, and you'll say, that's an area we specialize in. We've done a lot of business there. Kind of pick your brain about what your plans are, maybe for buy a coffee or something like that. Just real gentle, real ease into it. Be prepared for a very long lead cultivation process, right? So, Orchid, which was the next project I did after that first project, I think the first time I called the CEO of Quantum Properties until I actually got in the room to pitch was over a year.
Wow.
Right? So you just got to keep following up. Use Top Producer, use whatever it is to remind you to always constantly call, and just ask them, when can I call you back?
It's a good segue into one of the questions that I actually have later on my list here, but I'm going to kind of go into it now. So at that time, so you have these, because I'm sure, well, maybe I could be wrong, but I'm sure these guys get approached by a lot of, agents that want to sell high rises and do all that stuff. When you start talking to them, next to the fact that you have that experience now, I mean, you've sold 1,600 homes and all these other kinds of things, right? But what is your competitive advantage? You know, like why when you're talking to somebody, and you don't have to give us like the exact details and spill the beans on that kind of stuff, but in your thoughts, in if you were to be genuine to yourself, why do you feel that a developer should choose you over anybody else?
Well, I think that it's hard to answer that question because the guys that I work for, like we have guys that we've done 5, 6, 7 sites for. They know no matter what, I have their backs. And that's an easy thing to say, but like we had a situation where, our team is responsible for maintaining parking counts, color scheme counts, that kind of thing. And we screwed up. We screwed up on the way the parking counts, and it ended up costing the developer about 40 grand. And I thought these guys would never use this again. Of course, like I ate the cost. I wrote them a check for 40 grand, and it was strange. Like I said, I thought they'd never use this again, and I think that instantly had the opposite effect. It showed them that no matter what, I had their back, and I stood behind what I do. And I feel strongly these guys trust me implicitly. So that's why our customers keep coming back to us. Of course, we produce. When we're in there pitching with, we're up against, some of my larger competitors. The advantage I feel that we're really offering them is that we are a boutique service. You can't call up, I don't want to say that you can't call up the owners of the big companies, right? Whereas you do have the owner of our company's cell phone, right? So I think that's one of them. And just technologically with social media, with the algorithms that we run, nobody can touch us. And we have operatives, we have intelligence agents with other agencies that go out to these sites and check them out, and the follow-up just isn't there, frankly. So,
and a couple of the things too that I noticed that you do as well, just from our conversations once again, is that you really, and maybe because it is more or less that you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, a big chunk of the stuff that you sell, you bought that property for them as well, and you ran that pro forma, and you did all those different things. Because I mean, we've even had assemblies that we've pitched to you before in the past and stuff like that. And your wealth of knowledge when it comes to the particulars of not just buying but the selling side, I think that's probably something that differentiates you from a lot. And I know, like, and Magnum and all the other big guys out there and gals out there, I know they buy as well, but I feel like you probably have the process from A to Z a little bit more figured out than a lot of them, and it's kind of all in-house. There's no outsourcing it to different companies to do it for you, right? Is that something that you feel is competitive, or that you would recommend these guys doing, is learning the buy side, learning what they should be, square foot buildable is and all that other kind of stuff before they try to sell it? Or?
Well, I think that you need to learn the language that is used on this side of the business. Certainly, if you want to get into this side and you do want to be, it depends on what you want. If you just want to work in a sales center, or you want to run a marketing team, those are two different things. If you just want to work in a sales center, you need to study the 7 steps of selling. You need to study your product. And you need to be prepared to work a lot of hours and work very hard, but you're going to make a lot of money doing it, right? But if you want to be selling these, doing what we do, and that is more what we're geared towards now, Sean, is just that we have, we have our client database built, and first and foremost, we're looking for land for them, because I want to sell them the site, work with them throughout the development process. So I'm the one that is designing the units, or not designing the units, providing the input to the architect to provide the and going all the way through, right? Making sure it's good buy, making sure it's designed well, right? So designed for the marketplace, I guess I should say. So, but yeah, you got to learn the lingo.
And it's funny that you say that. And this is not criticism. You know me, I'm pretty blunt, just like you are. But when I have had a chance to talk to some of your competitors, when they ever say anything negative about you, is like, oh yeah, Trevor just gets his builders to develop build cookie cutter homes and blah 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 blah, and all the townhouses and condos look the same. But then I kind of laugh because every single time I'm like, yeah, but then he sells them all out and the developer just made a whack load of money, right? So that's what the market is actually demanding. You don't have to be, incredibly unique, right? So I always laugh every time I hear that. I think we've had this conversation.
Well, exactly. I don't design them. The free market does.
Yeah, right.
That's what the free market wants. So, but that's good. That makes me like genuinely, like I'm not just trying to put a positive spin on it. Hearing that people are talking trash about me behind my back like that, it makes me happy because because if you're not doing anything, nobody's talking shit about you, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
if you're doing stuff, yeah, there's going to be people that are talking trash. So
That's awesome. All right. So if you don't mind, because and I've gotten a couple questions here too, kind of dealing, what does your day look like? Do you have like morning rituals? I know you're into lifting and all that kind of jazz. Can you talk about a little bit more of the lifestyle that has brought you to this kind of point that you're in right now?
yeah, I mean, I don't know how much detail you want. 5:25 every morning, the alarm goes off. I will not use a snooze button. I get out of bed. I have, and downstairs coffee, protein shake, and then down in the basement into the gym. I have a deal going with my wife right now. She gets to stay in bed until 6:15, no matter what. But she makes breakfast and lunch for me. So it's a pretty sweet deal. So the youngest guy, he'll wake up at some point there when I'm doing warm-ups. I am training, I'm a power lifter. So the warm-up session takes a long time because you have to prepare your central nervous system as well, not just warm the muscles up and stretch. Hand off Elliot to my wife by 6:15, and then I'm getting into the working sets by 7:15 or by 6:15, pardon me. 7:15, 7:30, I'm done. Breakfast upstairs. I'll typically meditate for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then it's top and tail out the door. That's it.
And then when you get to the office, what's your morning? Like, do you have a routine that I call and email this time? And then like, how does that look like for your?
So I'm usually out the door by 8:15, in the car. I'm doing my gratitudes in the morning. So out loud to myself, like a crazy person. Hopefully my neighbors don't see it, but but by the time I'm done that, whatever, they probably think I'm nuts anyways. So, and then I'll usually call Danielle, who's our chief administrator. She's the nervous system of our team. She runs everything, and I'll call her and we'll just kind of have a little quick powwow in the morning. And then I get in about 8:45. Anything that can be pushed to the right to the afternoon will. Anything I got to deal with right away, I do. And then I'm on the horn looking for development sites. Calling. So.
And then so you're basically calling all day, or obviously if developer calls or whatever, you're going to be taking care of whatever needs be. And then you try to finish off around 4:00 or something like that, right? If I remember right.
Yeah, 4:15 an alarm goes off on my phone. And so I won't be calling all day. I like to call for about 3 hours each day, which sounds like a lot, but it takes so long to find who actually owns these sites and find contact numbers for them. It's hard. I do have a system where I can identify the site, give it to Stephanie, and then Stephanie will pull the phone numbers for me. But so typically what I try to do is make the calls on the sites that Stephanie's pulled for me the day before, and then hand off more sites for her to pull the next day. So I can usually put that off until about 11:30 or 12. I mean, I've never had a builder that, they absolutely had to get a hold of me, before noon kind of thing. And I mean, if they asked where I was, why I couldn't get a hold of them, I was calling for sites for you, bud. So, but it never happens like that. So, yeah. And then afternoon is just, reviewing architectural drawings, pricing, all the stuff.
And actually, I just had a good question here. I think I know the answer because I think we talked about this before, but do you ever door knock homes and owners yourself and try to assemble sites, or are you just picking out sites that somebody's already had? So if anybody on here has a site, should they be sending it to you, or are you looking for your own sites kind of thing?
I'm always willing to work with other guys in the industry. Absolutely. If you have a site that you think is a good site, bring it to me. Absolutely. The only thing I really need to know is what the guy wants for the site and what the cooperating commission is. That's it. And, people took the time to tell me why, when they didn't want it, why they didn't want it. And I will do the same thing, as I'll explain that to you. Right. So there was two parts to your question, but I think I forgot the other part.
The first one is, are you door knocking for sites yourself?
Oh yeah. So I don't personally I'm going to say something nice about him so I can use his name. Is I don't know, Mr. Laidler there. I mean, he just I don't think he's doing it. I think he's a builder now, or I don't know what he's doing, but man, he was just a maniac with those land assemblies. He would get 4, 5, 6, 7 homeowners in a row, get them all lined up and get those sites sold. Again, having the personality of drywall, I don't do well with those situations. So I'll look for sites that are already assembled. So I'm dealing with other business people. It's not where I want to be, is dealing with 4 or 5 landowners that each have different ideas about the market, or each getting, different advice from their family real estate expert, but for some people, they're really good at it. Like Laidler was really good at it. I'm just not.
He was amazing at it. So just to kind of clarify, then you really just focus on your client, who is the developer, on helping them buy the place and then obviously sell it. That's kind of your
buy it, take it through the development process, right, and then sell it. Yeah. But I'm looking for, there's sites all over the place that have been assembled that are being taken through the development process right now. All that legwork is done. That there's a lift there from what the guy paid for the land to what it's worth now. Yeah. You can make a beneficial agreement with the guy, and you can make a mutually beneficial agreement between your builder and that guy.
Right.
And get it. Yeah.
So kind of diving a little bit more into your business side. So what would you say is the most fruitful marketing initiative type deal you've done in the past? Like what have you done the most of that's giving you the most benefit? And then what's the biggest mistake? So from the high to the low, what's the biggest mistake you wasted money on? And there's a couple questions in here as well along that side that we'll throw in afterwards. But what if you're looking to get into this business, or maybe even you just got a duplex that you're trying to sell and you really want to try to market it, or whatever it is, what would you recommend has been your biggest thing to get people into your sites and so on and so forth? And what was the biggest mistake?
Well, I mean, unless you guys want to be here until dinner time, I can't tell you all the biggest mistakes, but I think the best things that we did were promotions that were easy to understand and address a need. We've all heard the phrase unique value proposition. I think that you really need to focus on the value, and it can't be a frill. Can't be something people are going to see right through. It needs to be something unique, and it needs to be something that's going to be of value to people in the marketplace. And so when we rolled out the price protection guarantee, we did that at a time when people were really scared about prices going down. And we've brought it back actually at our Liberty site because it was so successful, and it hit the nail on the head with what people were worried about. Well, what if I buy this home and then prices go down? Well, if they do, if the developer lowers the prices, guess what? You'll get the lower price too. Right. So it was easy to understand. People went for it. Down payment layaway program was another fantastic program we ran, where, we recognized in the community that young people, they want to buy, they just don't have the down payment. So what you do is your minimum 5% down payment, say it's a $300,000 condo, 15 grand. It's 2 years till the building's built. You come in, you put $2,000 down, and then over the next 2 years, that the rest of that 13 grand is broken up into equal monthly installments. It's easier if I draw it out, but does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. And so they pay like their $900 a month or something until the building's built, and then they get a brand new condo to move into. Yeah. So
Now,
those are the successful.
Jordan was just saying he had a buyer in Liberty because of that program. I mean, that's
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Hey, Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
so that's pretty awesome. And funny enough, like,
Good morning.
Good morning, buddy. Oh, look at that handsome devil, eh?
You don't want to see what I look like right now.
So
I'll leave it at that.
Is it even better than
everything? Oh, here. No, we'll talk to you. Keep on going. But thank you for that. The rollback program was sweet. That's why they bought, was because of that guarantee program.
Well, I appreciate it.
And a couple of those things, just to mention your Liberty one, because that's one I've been checking out a little bit here too.
Yeah.
A couple of the things that I loved on here, like taking control of your completion. Right now, people are worried about selling their house, right? So you have something in here, and correct me if I'm saying it wrong, but basically, when it's completed, the buyer has an option to extend up to 60 days, so they can try to get their dates aligned up and stuff. I think that's awesome. That's one of the biggest things people are usually afraid about, right?
Yeah. And then if the house sells, so Randy Mann's your realtor, right? Yeah. And he's gonna get the job done. Right? You met with Randy, you signed the paperwork, and as you're getting close to completion, when you're getting close, right? And you call Randy, okay, we're close, list us. And then right when you list, you also extend by 60 days, because you know what? If Randy sells the house in 2 weeks and the new buyers want in a week after that or something, you can accommodate them. You just let us know that you're now moving forward the completion date, and we'll line those dates up perfect for you. Yeah. So, and that's been a big help for people, right?
Well, that's huge. And I guess that's kind of back to that question of what differentiates you in the competition, what marketing initiatives, and I say this with the nicest, even when you and I were having a conversation, I'm like, do you have some big realtor bonuses? Do you have all these other things? And I know a lot of our market kind of eats up. I mean, every realtor obviously wants a bonus, but at the end of the day, this is not just a bonus. It's just actually stuff that our clients make it easier for them to actually purchase it, right? And obviously bonuses are good, but if they can't buy, they can't buy. And one of these things that I noticed too is you have a deposit protection guarantee. What exactly is that?
So our on-site TD reps, and again, a lot of people are worried about their jobs. They're worried, well, what if I get laid off? What if my hours get cut? That kind of thing. So we have our on-site TD reps. Once these mortgages go unconditional, they're virtually guaranteed to fund, like unless we find out the applicant committed fraud or something like that, right? And it doesn't matter that the construction's 8-9 months out, right? It'll fund. And so we had a long conversation with TD. We went pretty high up to find out if there was any loopholes in this thing, and there isn't. The thing's going to fund. And so what we said was, okay, well, if it doesn't, and the guy didn't commit fraud or like call TD and like tell him he's a drug dealer or something and get the thing screwed up, that he'll get his deposit back. If the mortgage doesn't fund on completion, you'll get your deposit back. So we just, again, it's a unique value proposition. Try to, I wish I could say that I was some marketing genius, but I'm just a glorified auto mechanic, really. It's a problem we're trying to solve. I mean, that's it. Right?
And that's really what it kind of comes down to is solving that problem for your client, for the agent, everything, right? And you're finding that problem and you're offering that solution. Cool. Yeah. So without going into more on Liberty, we'll talk about that at the end because I don't want to seem like it's a sales pitch, but a couple other questions for you. So right now, obviously, we're going through this whole coronavirus type deal, and it's slowed down. Thankfully, it looks like the prices haven't really changed too much, but it's slowed down the market quite a bit. What's your take on it? Not necessarily if it's real or not, but what's your take on it in how it's affecting your business? What you think there may be some opportunities to buy? Are we going to get out of this soon? If you could shed any light on the development side or developer side, that'd be pretty valuable for everybody on the call.
Well, I mean, on the development side of things, I think that there's a lot of virtual tours and all that kind of stuff going on. And I think, this goes for your resale side of things too, is, we saw the numbers from this past month. And one of the things that nobody seems to want to talk about is that the absorption rates are the same. The listing to sale ratios are unchanged from 1 year ago. They're the same, right? It's just there's a lot less buyers and there's a lot less sellers. But here's the thing is that there's way fewer realtors that are actually trying right now. And the same things on my side of things. There's way few project marketers that are actually trying to move product right now. I talked to one of my buddies yesterday. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm getting ready to go out on my boat. So, there's a huge opportunity there. And I think there's also, for us, there's a lot of things that we've always wanted to try, but as you know, we don't pay the marketing bill. The developer pays the marketing bill. And so it's been really difficult to justify trying these ideas in the past because they cost so much money to implement. Now, it's worthwhile to try, and we've tried a lot of different things, and it's been really cool to see the results. So there's an opportunity there, guys. There's still a need. This thing is going to stop soon. So yeah, your resale guys will be back into it.
So a question for you on that side, because I've had a couple people ask the same question here too, and you kind of just shed a little bit of light on that. Just so people understand too, because do you pay for the marketing, or do you just get a paid commission? How do you guys get paid on the project marketing side?
Same way you guys do. We get paid a commission, but no, we don't pay for anything for marketing. Nothing. Don't ever take a contract. I don't care what it's for. I don't care how much money they're promising to pay you. Do not take a contract where you're responsible for paying for marketing. Okay. That's not how this works. Okay. Aside from MLS listings and your stake signs. But when we do our pitch to the developers, we bring them a budget and we show them the budget. We show them how much it's going to cost, everything from leasing the sales center to building it, to social media, to websites. And we present it to them as a percentage of their aggregate sales, right?
That makes sense. So you package it all together, but your neck can't be on the line if their property doesn't sell or whatever it may be, right? So, I mean, it is because you're relying on those commissions to get paid, but at the same time, you're not going to be forking out that marketing budget. You're there to make the marketing happen.
Well, exactly. And it's a massive conflict of interest, in my opinion, because it's just a recipe for disaster. I mean, the builder wants, I don't know who's still doing print ads, but the builder wants color print and you want to do black and white, right? It's a recipe for disaster. Don't get involved in it. That's not the established practice anywhere that I've seen. Yeah, no, we get paid our commission on completion. We don't, and everything gets charged back, from photocopying to photography, everything. Yeah.
And that makes total sense. And that's basically what I've heard too. So it's good to hear that. Okay. So what would you recommend? Actually, let me take a step back there. So in 10 years, what is Trevor Street going to look like? What's your goals and ambitions?
What am I going to look like?
Just like this.
Probably a lot more gray and a little less.
But what does your business look like?
What does my business look like? I was thinking about that one last night because you were kind enough to send me these questions in advance. And to be honest with you, Sean, I really don't think that far ahead. I think about what the end state looks like when I cash out of this thing, which is I want $10.5 million in real estate paid for at a cap rate of 4%, minimum 4%, right? And I've worked backwards from that will provide about after taxes, about a $20,000 to $25,000 a month income, right? So, but I don't tend to think more than 3 or 4 years out because I'm a diehard capitalist and I will follow the money, right? So what I think it looks like is me running marketing programs for projects I'm involved in. I just wrote my first big check to participate in a condo development, and probably just only running marketing for my projects and for my existing clients. Awesome. So you're, and that's just as a highlight note. And this is one thing that we've been kind of seeing on all of these calls
is you may not have like a 10-year plan per se, but you have a definite goal in mind and you're kind of working backwards from them. The fact that you have a goal that's $10.5 million and basically paid off real estate that's generating X amount of dollars so you can have X amount per month. It's something that you kind of see in a lot of these top producers is they may have different goals or different places that they want to be or whatever it may be, but it's pretty awesome to see that you still do have that goal and working backwards. Now, for these newer agents or more experienced agents, right, what are some of the things that you would recommend that perhaps they change their business to, or perhaps they work their goals better? What are some of the big tips and tricks that you've noticed in your peers that are killing it right now that maybe a lot of other realtors aren't doing?
Like in terms of the end state goals you want, or just for an average guy on the street, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, if let's just say you have a realtor right now that's doing 30 deals a year or 20 deals a year, right? What do you think is the number one game changer that brought you from X to Y or vice versa or whatever it is? What do you think somebody should be doing if they're producing 20, 30 deals a year? So they're technically top 10%, they're doing good, but they want to get to that next level of, having $1 million plus year business or whatever it may be, right? What has been the biggest game changer that you've noticed successful and yourself? Successfully.
You got to start buying your time back. That's it, plain and simple. You don't have to go, like, there's so much that you don't need to do. Like, there's even nurses assistants now. So nurses came obviously because doctors needed assistance. So you know what I mean? Like, think about a doctor's office. Think about how much stuff has to go on in a doctor's office for the doctor to actually do that high level stuff that he has to do. Think about it from that perspective, right? So I would just start buying your time back and start with the simplest, easiest stuff. One thing that I've learned is that there is an enormous pool of extremely talented women out there that when they had kids, they left the workforce. And now the kids are in school every day, and they're available, and they want to drop the kids off, go to work, and then pick them up from school. So if you can offer mom hours with some flexibility, you're going to attract some amazing, incredible talent to your business. And the best, and they don't need to be full time. I mean, even if you just had 1 day a week, 2 days a week with this person helping you, you're going to see a phenomenal change in your mindset and in your business, 100%.
And so, and just to clarify, then you're basically saying, make sure you get an admin. That's the next step in really blowing up your business. So you can.
Yeah, you're buying your time back. I mean, like, I remember being a resale realtor, and for me to understand strata documents, they have to be in reverse chronological order, like oldest first. Is that reverse chronological order? They have to be oldest first. And, sometimes you get these strata documents, even if you put it in your contract that they have to be provided in a certain way, you get them and it'd be a dog's breakfast. And you spend an hour organizing them. You don't need to do that. Don't be doing these, $20 an hour jobs. Okay. Right. So, get yourself to a point where you're comfortable and start buying your time back, and use that time that you're buying back wisely. Be on the horn, doing the stuff that you need to do your top 20% stuff. Yeah.
And so if you were a brand new agent, so that was kind of covered, obviously, if you're been in the business for a little bit, you're doing well, 20, 30. If you were a brand new agent, what would you have done differently, or what would you recommend for a new agent that just started out this year, last year, or whatever, and is trying to get to that 20, 30, 40 deal level or whatever? What would be your recommendation on that?
You are a professional lead generator. That's it. That's your job. You're a professional lead generator. Until you have enough leads, nothing else matters. Literally nothing else matters. And you need to make lead generation a habit, right? People don't determine their futures. They determine their habits. Their habits determine their futures, right? Make lead generation your habit. The only other thing that I would really express, and you might kill me for saying this, but whatever, I'm not within arm's reach, so you can't do any weird jujitsu moves on me anyways. The only other thing that I would say is that if you're going to go, to 7th level and you're going to really build a business that is a brand that you can sell someday, then do that, right? Like Jeff Golden could probably sell his business, right? He's established a brand name over time, right? And he spent a lot of money and a lot of time doing that. For 99% of realtors out there, your business will not be worth anything when you retire.
And I agree 100%.
This concept of, oh, I'm making some more money, I should put it all back into my business. No, your business is not, it's not an end, it's a means to an end. All the guys that get out of this business alive and do well, they get to a certain point and they get to a certain size in business that they're comfortable with, and then they just start extracting money out. And that's what I'm doing, is I'm pulling hundreds of thousands of dollars a year out of this company, and I'm putting it into land, putting it into investment properties, that kind of thing. So
And I agree with you and on that. I mean,
but for a brand new guy, you just gotta lead generate. You got to get up to bat as much as you can.
And are there a couple things that, like you and I are both a little bit old school, but are there a couple things that if you're a new agent, you would focus on the lead generation side? Like, and I know a lot of this, you're not doing online leads as much. Well, actually, I guess you kind of are now, but if you were to start today, is there a prospecting side that you would focus on more than others? Like, would you do mail outs? Would you do any of those kind of things? Like, what are you finding are the most successful things? Would you buy 50 bus benches?
No, I wouldn't do anything that costs money. If you're a brand new agent, I mean, you're going to have to understand the fact that, I mean, as well as I do, there are times in this industry, it's feast or famine, right? You need to be saving your money as much as you can. It's kind of like passive income, right? You need to, if you want to have a passive lead generation system, you need to do the work to build that. And you need to, just like you need to build, if you want to build a passive income stream, you need to do the work to put the money into the passive income stream. It's the same thing with a passive lead generation scheme, like bus benches and mail outs, that kind of thing. I would say it's much like working out. You got to do stuff that you enjoy. Like, I should probably do more cardio, but I hate it and I don't. I like lifting weights, so that's what I do to stay in shape, right? So, I didn't like cold calling subdivisions. I'd rather knock on doors. So that's what I did. So find something you're going to do consistently every day and do that. That would be what I would say. And just monitor your results. Find out how many doors you got to knock on for one lead, how many, the math of it, how many leads you need for one sale, blah, 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 right?
And that's it, just to tab on that. So it seems like you've been very systemized before. I know you're a pretty systematic guy now. Can we just talk a little bit about your systems and how you're able to, obviously you must have an amazing admin or admins, because to sell 1,600 units, and I know you probably do 400 or 500 a year kind of thing with these different buildings or whatever it may be. How do you do that with like 5 people? What kind of systems are you using? And I hate to say because everybody asks what CRM you're using, but that kind of stuff. If you could explain a little bit about that, that'd be awesome.
Well, you'll probably laugh. We use Top Producer. So, and the Top Producers, like, this system is so old and so outdated that like our website guys had trouble integrating it. But it's so simple. That's why we like it, because it just, my salespeople, they log in, it shows them exactly who they have to call that day. We can run our 8x8s out of it super simply. You can import from MailChimp. So that's the CRM we use. But
who was the successful?
What's that, Amy? Oh, hello? Oh, anyways, I'll just keep blabbing.
Button.
Anything that can be automated will be automated. So our standard form contracts, they are, the first 2 pages are the only things that change in any deal. Our staff do not change anything within the contract. If they need to change something, it has to be done by addendum. All of our addendums, if you do deal with us, you'll see it's a standard form template across the top. That's a sign that it's a standard form template. I don't need to see it. So contracts come in, all our contracts are automated. We do it all in Adobe. So the staff write in the base price, they click the upgrades, and then Adobe does all the math for them, determines the deposit for them, everything. So there's very little chance for human error. Deals come in, I don't even see them. They go to Tammy. Tammy checks them over, then it goes to Steph. Steph checks them over, and they get processed. Same thing with the addendums. If they're a standard form template addendum, I don't see them. So we do use a lot of automation, but it would be nothing without Stephanie. So you can have all the automation you want in the world, without someone like Stephanie on that specific side of the job, it's not going to happen, right? And Steph is just like human computer. She's one of the smartest people I've ever met.
Everybody needs a Steph.
Especially guys like us.
Yeah, exactly. So on the marketing side, is all of your stuff automated then? Like you come out with a plan and then you kind of throw it into this machine, and then it's as systemized as possible. You know, your mail outs, you guys, is that kind of how it all rolls?
Yeah. So when someone registers for one of our sites, they'll immediately get there's a few things that happen. So they'll get the typical response email that most people get. And our staff are expected so we have primaries and secondaries on every site. So you assign 2 people to a site. Let's say we have Amy and Nicole here on the site. One day Amy will be the primary, the next day and Nicole will be the secondary. And then the next day, maybe Nicole will be the primary and Amy will be the secondary, right? So the day that they're primary, they're responsible for all the balloons, all the signs, everything's setting up. And they're expected to respond to these leads within 5 minutes of them coming in. Someone is 22 times more likely to answer the phone if you call within 5 minutes of them registering. Okay. So there's that there. And then instantly they'll also be loaded into top producer, and they'll automatically be loaded on an 8x8. Right now we're running 8x4s. So 8 touches over 4 weeks. And that's just to keep the brand, just the messaging alive in their heads, right?
And that's pretty awesome that you mentioned that, actually, because I know obviously nobody else is right now currently doing the project marketing, but I'm sure out of the 70 odd people that are on here, there's lots of people doing online lead generation, and it's the same kind of format we always hear: call them within a minute or 5 minutes or whatever. And have you personally noticed that it's a massive difference when you're calling them right after they sign up?
I'm sorry, say that part again, Sean. I don't know if it's my connection or yours.
It could be mine. I've noticed that it's been a huge uptick, and everybody's saying you have to call them within 5 minutes of signing up. Have you guys, and obviously there's lots of studies done, have you guys noticed a massive difference with that? Because everybody's doing online lead gen these days, right? So
they answer. That's the thing, is that they're 22 times more likely to answer, right, when you call right away. Don't leave a voicemail, send a text, right? Especially millennials, they don't like to answer the phone. So, yeah.
All right. Well, last question I got for you here, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate you've almost been on for an hour already. So obviously these markets are cyclical. 6 months or a year ago, or especially 2 years ago, there was 500 agents waiting outside a pre-sale presentation center wanting to get their client in. Obviously now it's kind of like a 180, right? When that time comes, because we got lucky enough to have some pretty good relationships and got some VIP service and got our clients in before others and blah, 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 blah. What would you recommend agents do if they really want to get into obviously representing the buyer's side on these pre-sales, right? Mm-hmm. What would you recommend they do with project marketers like yourself, with developers, whatever it is, to kind of make sure that their clients, I hate to say it, but get, the unit that they want? Maybe if there's any incentives, they know about it right away. How do they get their clients to the front of the line, and how do they build that relationship with marketers? And what would you recommend they do to build that relationship with marketers, so to be able to sell down the line?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. For the time being anyways, here in the People's Republic of Canada, these condos that are being built, they are still private property. So, and if we have preferred people that we know are good to do business with, there's absolutely nothing wrong with bringing them in first. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's private property. As long as we're not discriminating against any protected class of citizen, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And we're acting in our developers' best interest, which is our fiduciary responsibility. So if I have a group of people that I know are good to deal with, they read the contract and disclosure and explain it to their clients, And if they don't know, they get legal advice. And the people they bring us, they firm up their deals. Why wouldn't I bring those people in? And that's really the only things we're looking for, right? Is that, guys do 2-3 deals with us. They show us they're good to deal with, that they're reading their contracts and explaining them, because those terms that are in that contract, they're interpreted extremely literally. So you need to read them, understand them. As long as you're doing that, we're always going to take care of you and try to get you in early, right? So, yeah.
So making sure they don't rescind, that's one of the big things, obviously, right?
Yeah.
It's nice.
Don't bring me. I had one guy, he talked a big game, and he said, I got 5 guys that want in early. And so okay, sure. It's a big building. And he brought in 5 guys that wanted in early, and they all rescinded. So.
Those are definitely useless. Okay. So, and so if we're looking to build those relationships, and I might just throw this out there right now is probably, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the best times to build those relationships. If you can bring into clients into projects right now that, I'm not going to use the word struggling, but it's slowed down quite a bit in comparison to what it was a year and a half ago, right? Now is an awesome time to build a relationship, because if there's anything I can guarantee you, in 2008, I remember Mac Marketing was selling Ani stuff for 50% off or something crazy, right? So way, way worse than it's ever been now in comparable. And then 10 years later, 5 years later, 8 years later, there's lineups of 500 people down the street on every block, right? Now is probably a good time to support your project marketer if you want to be able to get into when the spin comes around, right?
Well, yeah, and like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Markets are cyclical, and as I mentioned, like I have absolutely no patience for realtors that do not read and understand the contracts that their clients are signing. I mean, you have 7 days. I have no patience for that, no matter what's happening in the market. That to me is just an adoration of your responsibilities. But aside from that, I do feel that during the boom, we tried to be as fair and as accommodating to realtors as we could, because we knew that well, one, it's the right thing to do. Try to treat people the way you want to be treated. But the other thing is that it will change, it will flip. And now we are grinding. We do grind to get guys in the door, right? And that's why we move in the door. So, absolutely, now is the time to, build the relationships and, just make sure that, build the relationships, go in there and sell, right? So.
Your mic went off. Perfect timing. Awesome. All right, brother. Thank you again so much. If anybody wants to check out some of your closest, we were talking about Liberty. That's probably one of your top of mind projects that you're doing right now. Are there any other incentives or anything like that I missed out on that we should talk about there? And just for you that don't know, that's in Fleetwood.
Yeah. These are house-sized townhomes. So if you have a client that you've been taking out, and they want a detached house, maybe in Langley or something like that.
Yeah.
Just take them to see these things. Like you're inside them and they feel like a house. Yeah. They really do.
What's the square footage of them?
Like up to 2,700 square feet.
Oh wow, they are houses.
They're a wide plan. That's why they feel like a house, right? Yeah. So there's that. They're $50,000 off right now. We don't need to be doing those deep discounts, but he just likes to keep sales moving, I guess. $2,000 of your commission is paid within 14 days of firm.
Nice.
The balance is paid on completion. Yeah, maybe I should have led with that, but.
Awesome. All right, brother. Thank you again. I'm getting tons of great feedback already. Everybody's thanking you again. Thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. And for those of you that are going to be on next Tuesday's call, we have a gentleman, our first American that's going to be on there, Andy Dane Carter. He flipped 200 homes last year and currently owns 375 homes under his name. They might all be $50,000. I don't know. We're going to find out soon. Right?
Ohio. Yeah.
Exactly. Or Chicago or something. But thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you joining. Thanks again, Trevor. We learned a lot today, And if you need anything, reach out to Trevor, check out some of his sites, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, brother.
I'm honored. Thanks, brother. Cheers.